Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of the Irish Angle on Jump To It. As usual, it's myself, Johnny Ward and Emma Nagle, and we're going to discuss all the big topics in racing and the racing itself. So start off, Johnny, Emma, welcome to the show.
How are you getting on,
Thanks,
Vinny?
Vincent.
Now, first off, we get stuck into it. Some of the big issues, and there's lots of them around racing at the moment. First one, which said no particular order, but the first one is Zanahiyr, finished third in last year's champion hurdle and has been disqualified on a technicality, as in it tested positive for a substance called lidocaine subsequently and has been disqualified from the race, and Gordon Elliott has been fined £1,000, and that's the only sanction that's involved here. Emma, what did you make of this? It's causing a bit of a stir on social media. A lot of people saying that Gordon Elliott was treated lightly here. What do you think?
I to be honest, I thought it was just much ado about nothing. To be honest, it was totally accidental. I'm convinced that they weren't giving the horse. I mean, lidocaine, it's a kind of a numbing agent, I think, so it's not really something that would improve the horse performance. I think the fine was standard. The horse was disqualified from the race, and it took a long time to come out. I suppose maybe that's why people are in a bit of an uproar. But no, I mean, it's totally accidental. I don't think they've actually found out what caused the horse to be contaminated with it, but they're pretty sure there's no foul play. So I don't think it's a stain on Gordon Elliott's reputation at all, for me anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, the first thing is the horse's performance didn't improve or disimprove because of the positive test for lidocaine, because the previous time it ran third or second in the Irish champion hurdle behind Honeysuckle, then it ran in Cheltenham, finished third to Honeysuckle and Epatante, then it went on a month later and was upsides Epatante when it fell at Aintree. So very similar form all three races. So this one particular race, it's hard to see that there was anything malicious involved here. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, much the same, Vinny. I think, Gordon has come through a fairly harrowing time, as you memorably said in your column last week about, the dead horse and so forth. And I think somebody who's, I think Gordon is pretty likely to play by the rules now. If he weren't at any stage, and I'm never saying he was, but Gordon is trying to get his reputation, still trying to get his reputation back. And I genuinely do not think in any shape or form he would be trying to, engage in skullduggery here. And just from my reading of it, I'd agree with them. I think it was fairly benign, and it should have come out a lot earlier, and we'd have forgotten about it. I guess the fact that it's come out between McNally and this story about Homer Scott that we talk about isn't ideal for racing, and I do think racing can be damaged by bad publicity. But I thought Gordon spoke quite well on Racing TV yesterday, and yeah, I think we move on.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, and we will move on. We move on to the next one. Ronan McNally. Ronan McNally, 12 years he got, disqualified person for a big case from the previous week. We didn't get a chance to discuss it last week, so maybe we'll just touch on it now. He's appealed the decision. What do you think, Emma? Was 12 years too much?
12 years for me just seemed an absolutely ridiculous ban, considering, it would be one thing if it was going to be some kind of watershed moment for the sport, but I can't see anyone else being hit with this kind of ban for doing very similar things on a very regular basis in the sport. Look, he was probably more blatant than most are about it, which probably didn't play to his favour. But I think the most harsh thing about the ban, as well as the time, I think the time is ridiculous, but he's a disqualified person now, so he can't go racing, he can't have anything to do with racing, he can't work for a trainer, let's say, and his young son Tubbs is most likely to become a jockey in the near future, and I think by letter of the law, a disqualified person can't associate with a licensed person. So I mean, can he not associate with his son when he starts riding in races, which will be less than 12 years time? Look, I wish him the best of luck with his appeal. You'd imagine it would have to be reduced massively, and I think everyone was kind of shocked about it. That's kind of the main point here. I haven't really spoken to anyone who has agreed with the sentence he got. It just seems very unfair to me, and yeah, I just wish him best luck with his appeal, and hopefully it'll be reduced.
You have the same opinion, Johnny?
Yeah, more or less, Vinny. And I wrote about this last week. I think there's an echo of Bernie Madoff in this. Bernie Madoff got 150 years for fraud, which was a crazy sentence, really. He committed fraud. He didn't even commit murder. he didn't commit sexual crimes. He committed fraud, but he was given 150 years as a obvious deterrent. I mean, Bernie Madoff was an old man at the time, and they basically said, if you do this, this is what you're going to get. And I think there's an element of that in McNally, but I'm sorry. I mean, Ronan McNally. Let's be honest. He certainly didn't cover himself in glory with some of these gambles. Some of the stuff with the Dun Yard, I think, was not good. I got frustrated by a lot of the McNally horses the way they were running, and as they say, they responded well to cash on occasion. But sorry, if Ronan McNally's getting 12 years and they're going to bring in retrospective punishment, they're going to punish everyone like they punish Ronan McNally, there would barely be a trainer left in this country. Let's be honest. Everyone plays the handicap game, and everyone stops horses to some extent. You know, you want your horse to finish eighth rather than sixth because of the handicapping system. And I think Ronan McNally has definitely done wrong here, but I think 12 years is very, very out of proportion to what he did.
Yeah, well, I'm agreeing with both of you. So that's three of us here, three fans of horse racing, all think the sanction is too severe. The majority of the public seem to think the same thing. So how did the authorities come up with 12 years? That's the question, isn't it? And then will they change it on appeal? Perhaps they won't. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Another thing that cropped up yesterday was Paul Kimmage wrote another article in the Sunday Independent all about horse racing. He has been trying to unearth a doping scandal within the sport, and he hasn't quite got there yet. But this one, he certainly hit the mark here in the sense that he has uncovered something that needed to be uncovered, I have to think, is Homer Scott, that there was issues with his training establishment, some very poor welfare of horses there. Johnny, you looked into this. What do you think?
Yeah, I was sort of tipped off that there was going to be a piece on Sunday, and I initially thought, like, it hasn't been groundbreaking to me in the sense that, like, you might be the only person in racing that's actually written about this since, Vinny, and we're here on sort of 20 to 2 on Monday, and I apologise if other people have. I looked up Homer Scott on Google, and all I could see was the Kimmage case and reference to his kidnapping in the 80s, which probably should have been mentioned in the piece, but it wouldn't be the first time Paul Kimmage would sort of leave stuff out if it sort of suited what he was writing. That said, this was a very, very bad case, and it's the most read story, I think, on the Irish Independent, on the Independent Sports section of the website. It seems quite clear here that harrowing issues of horse welfare came to light, and it looks like to me that it was, as you wrote in your blog today, it was kind of swept under the carpet. I've spoken to the IHRB today, and it told me that it's a matter for the Department of Agriculture. It will help in any way that it can. But for me, this just is not a good look at all for racing. There's a video on the story page, on the Independent website. I didn't read the hard copy, so I imagine it looked bad there. And I think the racing media, in having not dealt with this story at all yesterday, has questions to answer as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a major case within the sport. The first thing is, why do we know nothing about it? Not a word about it before this. And fair dues to Paul Kimmage for shining a light on it. Where it goes from here is the question. I find that difficult from the IHRB saying, oh, look, it's the Department of Agriculture issue. Like Stephen Mahon was a Department of Agriculture issue in the same way then over welfare, but yet they dealt with it. Surely there has to be some sanction against Homer Scott over this, so some sort of a case into it. We would like to see whatever turns out. Maybe at the end of it all, it's a case that all that happens is he relinquishes his license, which is what he did. But at least you'd like to see some sort of a case around it to see exactly what happened. Emma, what do you think? Have you read it?
Yeah, I read the article last night. Like, I'd agree with that. I mean, if he was a licensed person when this was going on in the yard, I mean, something like this is probably the worst look that racing can get. Never mind the likes of Ronan McNally putting off gambles and all this, but the welfare issues that were highlighted in the case were, they'd make you sick to your stomach, and it was very hard. It was a very hard article to read. For anyone who just likes animals in general, or anyone with any kind of morals, it's hard to believe that anyone could do that to any kind of living creature. And yeah, no, it was a kind of a shocking one, because it was the first time I'd heard anything about the whole case. And like Johnny said, it's strange that it hadn't been highlighted before, since it was a while ago now. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. They're saying it's a Department of Agriculture issue, but I suppose what kind of sanctions can they give if he's not a licensed trainer anymore? But yeah, it was really shocking case, and it's things like that which will be a lot more damaging to the sport rather than the likes of Gordon Elliott getting a €1,000 fine or Ronan McNally putting off a gamble. Though this is one of the real issues. Horse welfare has to be kind of the top priority in the sport, and you'd think that there would be very strict sanctions for something like that going on in a licensed yard.
We'll say that the
Yeah, the other
35,000
thing.
odd people, Vinny, the 35,000 odd people that were at Leopardstown for the DRF, or the young lads and the young lassies that were there over the Christmas, do they really give a shit about Ronan McNally pulling off gambles? Do they really give a shit about this? Do people that have a betting horses do they really care? A lot of them are probably intrigued by the whole thing. It's debatable. Everyone is absolutely appalled, or should be appalled by this. And you compare 12 years to this, it doesn't marry up at all to me.
Yeah, the other side of this is that Ronan McNally, disqualified person, as you discussed earlier, Emma, he's not allowed to associate with anyone in horse racing. He's not allowed to go horse racing or anything else. Homer Scott can. Nothing to stop him going. He can own horses by the sound of it. He can still breed them. So, where is there doesn't seem to be any equitable element between the two different sides of this, that there has to be something more to this, and we need to dig this out and find exactly what it is over the coming weeks and get the IHRB to say a lot more on it, and certainly the Department of Agriculture too. That would be my thoughts.
I mean,
on
I think
it
anyone who can do that to an animal, I think they should be banned from owning any kind of animal for the rest of their lives. And I think anyone would be a lot happier to meet Ronan McNally at the races now than meet Homer Scott, knowing what has happened now. And that's just my thoughts on it. I'd have a lot. It's hard to compare the contrast because they're such different things. But the treatment of both cases is not proportionate, I think, for what went on.
I'd agree. Anyway, look, we'll leave it there with all of these. We'll be back to these time and time again. We'll obviously have the appeal of Ronan McNally, and there has to be more to do with the Homer Scott case over the next few weeks. Moving back a little bit to last weekend's racing and what's coming up with anti-post-wise particularly. We saw some good racing over the weekend. The highlight for me was Blazing Cal returning from 14 months off. Charles Burns got him back to the track for the Boyne Hurdle. It was an impressive winner. Is he a Cheltenham winner? Emma, what do you think?
Yeah, he was brilliant, and I thought Philip gave him a very, very, very cool ride as well. For a young, does Philip claim 5 or 7? I think he's claiming 5, but he never panicked, and he was kind of giving the horse his time to get there, and I think he won with plenty in hand. He'll probably be very, very hard to beat now for the Stayers Hurdle. I had back to Yupu, but yeah, I think Blazing Cal is probably the one to beat now. The bookies reflected that he's gone very short, but what a training performance as well by Charles to get him there on the day. People probably think of Charles as a man to land a gamble, but you probably forget how good of a trainer he actually is, and to get him ready after so long with all the problems he had to be that good in the day, and now looks like he might go on and do it at Cheltenham too. It was some training performance, in fairness.
Yeah, what do you think, Johnny? Is he your idea of a Stayers Hurdle winner?
Yeah, I'd sort of half written him off, and I spoke about Tiopu or Home by the Lee, but I think he does emerge the way he travelled in the race, and Oliver McKiernan's horse had kind of solid form that ties in with Home by the Lee. Emma mentions Philip Burns. Philip Burns claims 5, but he couldn't claim in this race, so that's an added. He won by 3 lengths going away, and considering the issues that he's had. One of my WhatsApp mates has certainly been trying to bang the drum of what'll Philip be riding for Charles at Cheltenham, and I think he's a jockey that deserves a lot of kind of scrutiny at the moment because he's riding very well. He's riding beyond his years a little bit, and fairness to Charles, who, let's be honest, he's been in the wars himself in the past with many issues, but at the moment, like, I've never doubted. I've had a horse with Charles, and he's brilliant to deal with. He's very, very honest with me, and he's a brilliant trainer. I think he's probably not had quite the ammunition that his talents deserve in recent years, and I think he has a son now that's probably given him a huge kick as well, in terms of, it's all well and good winning races, but when you see your son winning a race like that yesterday, a race with a lot of prestige, and with a view to Cheltenham going forward, I'd say he's getting some kick out of it.
Yeah, you wonder, will he jock his son off for Cheltenham is the question, isn't it? And get a fully professional rider on board? I don't know. Probably not is the answer there. Some other ones. John Bon wins a 2-horse race at 1-16 and struggled to do it. What do you make of that, Emma? Is that the Arkle winner?
Probably wasn't the most convincing performance. When you look at El Fabiolo a week earlier, and he's trashing a really top quality field, and John Bond's kind of struggling to, kind of scrambling a bit, I suppose, at 20-1 on, I think he was. So it wouldn't fill you with confidence. Look, it's probably, it's not, I don't mind seeing a horse getting into a battle like that, but I think you'd have to be a lot better to beat El Fabiolo. Look, at the moment, I'd probably have El Fabiolo ahead of him. At Willys this morning, he sounded quite confident about him and about his chances. It was actually interesting as well. I was listening to Ruby Walsh talking about him during the week, and it was an interesting point he made that John Bond hasn't really made mistakes in races, but El Fabiolo has, so he'll know how to react better to it at the heat of battle in the Arkle. You don't want to see John Bond making a big mistake in Cheltenham and not knowing what to do with himself. So that's, El Fabiolo probably has the edge over him at the moment, but he's a massively talented horse as well. So I wouldn't be too downbeat about his run yesterday, but I probably wouldn't be backing him at 2-1 either at this stage.
Yeah, the other thing for me is that any horse in the Arkle, if they do make a mistake, they don't win. That's the end of that. They're going too quick. I can't see anything recovering from mistakes, so you're just hoping something jumps all 8 fences perfectly to win. Then we other ones over the weekend. We had American Mike disappointed again with the race won by Hunter's Yarn, which Willie Mullins says is going to be a way better chaser than hurdler. And Hunter's Yarn will go for the Supreme. It's into 8-1. Did you see that, Johnny?
Yeah, I thought, to be fair, that I found that race really very, very, very hard to weigh up. With a couple of significant non-runners. Not to go to labour the point here. The ground for me this weekend was seriously alarming. Like, it looked like the sound they're making in Navan, it sounded like summer ground, and we're here in February. They had problems in England as well. I mean, how they're going to deal with this going forward? It was dealt with on Look on Sunday yesterday in terms of, would you even buy a National Hunt horse now when they're not going to get the ground for practically the whole year round. But in any event, Hunter's Yarn was very good. I thought it was a good race, and he was by far the best. And Willie's novice kind of situation now, he's so many options in the 2 novice races over the 2 miles and the 2.5. It's very, very hard to know where they'll all go. But yeah, it was an impressive performance.
Yeah, and then we did another impressive performance was in the bumper. A horse called Firefox of Gordon Elliott. Turns out that can't run in the Cheltenham bumper. One of the more impressive bumper winners we've seen recently, because it's already run over hurdle, so that rules that out. Then on Saturday, just going back a little bit further, we had Sir Alan won the opening novice hurdle. That's a race that's been won 3 of the last 4 years. The winner has gone on to win the Boodles at Cheltenham. There were a lot of Boodles contenders in the race. What did you think of that, Emma? Is Sir Alan a likely contender for the Slatteries?
Yeah, he was impressive. He was behind Blood Destiny, I think, earlier on in the season.
Yeah.
But you'd have to think he'll be a big contender coming into Cheltenham. Willie was really, really hot on Blood Destiny this morning for the Triumph, and he mentioned that horse and how good he thought he was and how easily he was beaten by Blood Destiny. So I'd be kind of keen on Blood Destiny for the Triumph after coming out of Willie's this morning. He kind of sounded very quietly confident about him. So yeah, the juvenile hurdlers this year are pretty interesting, all right.
And most of them are trained by Willie, which is the other side of it. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, you better tell us a little bit more about your trip down to Willie's, because there's big news this morning as well that Allaho is out of the Ryanair chase. It's got an abdominal and I can't pronounce it. It's had a bleed anyway, and it won't be running in Cheltenham is the bottom line. Willie spoke about that, I presume.
Yeah, out of Cheltenham, I think it was quite serious. I think he's pulling through now quite well, but I think at the time it was kind of hit and miss whether he'd make it through. I think is what Willie was saying, but it's kind of an unusual thing to happen. You wouldn't hear of it happening too much, but yeah, it's a shame to see him out of Cheltenham now. But look, so hopefully he'll pull through anyway, and probably be next season. You'd think if he was it didn't sound great, the report on him, but he wasn't totally ruling out the season, but I'd imagine it will probably be next season unless he makes some kind of miraculous recovery. It's a bit of a blow to the Ryanair now. I think Willie was saying he might reroute Blue Lord that way. Close your ears, Johnny. But no, it's a big blow, because I think everyone was looking forward to seeing him at Cheltenham.
Yeah, that Ryanair is still looking like it's going to be an Irish race even without Allaho. You've got Blue Lord, as you say, probably stepping up on trip. Blue Lord has won that Clonmel Oil Chase, which is over a very similar distance last time, and Fakir Didaris, which won the race the previous year and avoided Allaho in a couple of races last season. That'll be looking like that'll go there as well. So we're going to probably have Irish favourite and second favourite. What do you make of that, Johnny?
Yeah, the Blue Lord thing, I cannot see how stepping up in Triv is going to improve him. But this news is probably the death knell to my bet. I have tipped French Dynamite up the race for the Ryanair, but I mean, yeah, Blue Lord, I see him as a total 2 miler. I just thought he was disappointing at Leopardstown the last year. But in fairness with Allaho, we hadn't seen him. He was short in the betting considering, you hadn't seen him since last year, and it's disappointing. But it just shows Willie will change his mind. It is what it is.
Yeah, he's going to do that plenty times more, I'd say, between all these races. Like even talking about that Triumph a minute ago, he's got so much ammunition for that Triumph. Surely he has to run one or two of them in the Boodles if they get reasonable handicap marks. So it'll be interesting to see where all that ends up. Anyway, we'll finally look at, from last weekend, have you a horse to follow? Johnny, have you got one for us?
I'm going to give a horse that ran in Thurles on Thursday. It was a race that not surprisingly Willie won. He's won an awful lot of these. He's had an awful lot of short price favourites. I think on the day he had plenty of short price favourites as well, including Saldier, who won the race. I thought Saldier jumped brilliantly. He was obviously a horse that had achieved high rank over hurdles. I followed him for a long time. But I thought Solness, who was second, he was well backed. A horse trained by Joseph O'Brien. Um, He's quite nice pedigree by Connick Turf, who would be the sire of Durasso, I think. And he's nicely bred, I think, in the dance side as well. But I really like the way he shaped in the race. I thought he was going to win turning in, and there was no shame in Saldia kind of maybe outstaying him over 2 miles. But I thought it was a very, very nice performance, and interested to see where he racks up next.
Yeah, he might turn up somewhere in Cheltenham. You'd never know. Emma, have you one for us?
Yeah, I thought I know the way you're thinking for Gavin Cromwell and JP. He was behind Hunter's Yarn yesterday. Very eye-catching one, I'd say. Probably one for maybe the Martin Pipe or something at Cheltenham. I think he's rated about 137 now. He was asked for an effort very late on, and he stayed on very well to run past American Mike into third place. So I'd say wherever he shows up next, probably at Cheltenham, you'd imagine the Martin Pipe, he probably will take a fair bit of beating. His form as well, he beat Lotta Joy, I think, first time out in Cork, and she hacked up as well during the week, so that form took a bit of a boost. So yeah, he'll be the one I'll be watching for the next few weeks.
Very good. For me, it's Blazing Cal. I was very impressed with the performance. Great to see the horse back. I think he's the real deal. I think he'll beat Tihupu. They're currently about joint favourites for that Stayers hurdle, but I think the fact he's not ground dependent either, the quicker it is, it's not going to be an issue to him, I don't think. So he's the one for me. Anyway, thanks for all your input today, and we shall look forward to the next few weeks. Only 4 weeks to Cheltenham from tomorrow. So great stuff. Thanks for watching, and if you want to subscribe to our channel, keep in touch with all the upcoming videos. Emma will have a video on her Willie Mullins stable tour, which she did today, so you get all the updates on all the horses there as well. So keep an eye on all the stuff on our channel, and thanks for watching. See you all again next time. Bye for now.